So welcome to part two of addressing climate change as climate action opportunity. This is Art Johnson with New World Communications, and let's continue with our screen share. So let's just pick up the ball and answer the question, are we facing this sixth mass extinction? Yes, we are, but we don't have to become extinct if we start to take some meaningful, effective action and cultivate some meaningful, really good habits of highly effective people. So let's talk about seizing the timely climate action opportunity. And I first really got interested when Al Gore came out in 2007 with his film, An Inconvenient Truth. And it was an award-winning film, and it talked about the impact in the crisis of global warming. And he has a book on Amazon.com. He has a good website called the Climate Reality Project, where he actually develops leaders. He has a climate reality leadership training. So you can go out into the world and explain climate change and how people can mobilize, which is really, really important work. And that got me motivated on my YouTube channel through a series of what I called Conversations for a 21st Century World, working with my dear friend, Sandra Early. And we started by reviewing books that really address some of the issues. And one of the first books that we talked about was a book published in 2018 by Terry Patten. It's called A New Republic of the Heart, an ethos for revolutionaries. He worked with Ken Wilber on a book called Integral Life Practice way back in 2008. It was kind of whole kind of personal strength and development. And but after that book and after Ken Wilber just got sick and that stopped, he was really starting to focus on this climate change issue. And he has since experienced many dark nights of the soul just thinking about this, living with this issue, and figuring out how it's going to be addressed. So the book is a call for community between diverse groups of people and creating a new republic of the heart. Very nice concept. And the diverse groups that he was talking about were, on the one hand, these scientists are a lot of very skeptical because they see the handwriting on the wall in terms of possible extinction. And then you have the technology people that are kind of positive about the role that technology can kind of deal with this. And then he has a kind of a general public that's, some of it's sleepwalking, other people are a few activists and stuff. And so he's trying to pull people together. And he provides a few examples at the end of the book of front-running what he calls evolutionaries. And they're doing kind of important work, but the masses of people still hadn't at the time that he was writing this. And he also has a really neat podcast called State of Emergence. And he's been a podcaster with a lot of kind of high, of intellectuals and stuff, insiders and academics mainly, but some activists and practicing Buddhists and really kind of interesting people. But the book is basically a lament over lack of effectiveness in dealing with climate change and potential loss of death with a call of action between tribes of people, but with a joyous effort. And so it's a book worth reading and listening to his podcasts. I think they're very kind of inspiring, if not sometimes depressing. But he mentioned in the book Project Drawdown and the work of Paul Hawken, who was like a retailer who decided, they said, well, look, what I can do is research what climate solutions already exist so that people can learn about them and what they can do to draw down carbon. So he was mentioning again in the book, and I listened to the book. I got it on audible.com and started listening to it. It's kind of dry. It just talks about each one of those 80 plus categories, but how many megatons of drawdown can happen if these technologies were embraced. And they're not all technologies. Some are just good husband, good techniques for managing your life and doing telepresence like we're doing right here, meeting over Zoom and stuff. And so anyway, it's worth looking at. And what's really worth looking at is over 80 climate solutions that he mentions in the book and on his website. Now, Solutions is not one just company. There are many, many companies, many, many organizations that are doing work around these climate solutions that he mentions. We're going to talk about that later on during this presentation. And then we have a book that Sandra introduced me to by Naomi Klein called On Fire, came right out on 2019, and it makes the burning case for a Green New Deal. Very controversial thing. A lot of people say, oh, we can't do this and blah, 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 blah. And, but so she makes the case for it based on a series of personal essays she's written, personally experiencing the impact of climate change wildfire while she's writing her book in Canada. And her son is asking, what's going to happen, Mommy, what's going to happen to the animals? And she didn't have a really good comforting answer for her young son. And this is a critique of the oil industry and of capitalism. I think the form she's really talking about is monopoly capitalism. And so it's a really interesting book worth reading. And so we're going to stop here and take a little bit of break before we get right into, we'll stop our screen share and take a break for, where we're going with this, and we'll then pick up the ball for the next part. Thank you.